Hello, everybody out there, and welcome to another edition of Bolts Breakdown. Brian Burns, beat writer for TampaBayLightning.com, Recher 95.3 WDAE, and no shortage of things to talk about.
All kind of coming recently,
yeah,
right?
I know.
Last 10, 15
usually
minutes.
We try to get it right on the dot at noon, but you know what? Burnsy was a little busy because there was some news that just broke here, and we'll get to that here. In a minute, of course, we'll look ahead to tonight's game against the Ottawa Senators. The Lightning are playing north of the border, and of course, we'll look back on Saturday night's game against the Washington Capitals. Kind of a up and down affair. Is a little bit kind of an awkward game to watch. I taped it because I wasn't able to make it. I was over at the USF Baseball Stadium watching or calling that game, but just watching that game back, it was very interesting. The beginning of the game, it seemed like the Lightning went forever without getting a shot. They fell behind, and then they came back, and then it was chippy, and we'll get to that in a second. So make sure you follow Brian on Twitter at BBurnsNHL. You can follow the team at TB Lightning. Follow me at Recher. Follow the station at 95.3 WDAE. Go to 95.3WDAE.com for the best Bolts coverage. All right, so let's get into the latest news so far, Brian. Obviously, Victor Hedman leaving the game was kind of one of the bigger stories from Saturday night. So what's the update on him? And then also, I saw that Eddie Pasquale has been called up. Yep. So Louis Domingue is dealing with an injury as well. So give us an update on those guys.
Yeah, Victor Hedman, upper body injury, day-to-day, which I think, all things considered, all things considered, that's pretty good news if you're a Lightning fan. It's not something long-term, at least. We hope not. Anton Strawman was day-to-day at the beginning of this month. He's now on his 10th game out. So sometimes those day-to-days linger a little bit longer than maybe expected. But I guess that's probably the best news other than, Victor Hedman on the ice for morning skate today, which I don't think anybody really expected that. So day-to-day, pretty good news. Hopefully that means, even if he doesn't play the rest of the regular season, that he'll be ready for the playoffs. Pasquale, that one was a little bit of a head scratcher. You think it was something going on with Vazzy, something going on with Domingue. Then we remember Friday, Louis Domingue didn't participate when the Lightning practiced that first game back from their break. The Lightning PR extraordinaire Brian Breezeman said it was a treatment day for Domingue. So you have to wonder if maybe there's something going on there. They bring up Pasquale, judging from, and I'm getting all this from Kaylee Chelios up in Ottawa. So follow her on Twitter as well, as long as you're following everybody else.
Yeah, exactly.
She had a picture of Vasilevsky in the starters net. Pasquale's already up there, so it looks like Vazzy's going to start tonight versus Ottawa. Then you'll probably see Pasquale go against Montreal tomorrow. And I remember he got his NHL debut earlier this season up in Detroit.
Yep.
Shootout win, a tough win, but did really well in that shootout. And down the stretch, he made some really big saves to get 2 points for the Lightning in that one. So it looks like, don't really know too much about Domingue. Lower body injury, they're calling it day-to-day as well. So, again, hopefully he'll be ready to go once the playoffs start. And, again, Anton Strawman looks like he's going to be out again tonight. Looking at the D pairings that Kaylee tweeted out, looks like Gauntz and Ruda are going to be that third pair for the Lightning. Okay. So Gauntz making his Lightning debut. He's played in the NHL before with a couple teams.
Pittsburgh won.
Yeah, Pittsburgh won. I want to say Dallas and Colorado were the others. But it looks like he'll be on that third pair with Ruda. Maybe we'll get Strawman back tomorrow for the Montreal game. So
there's definitely some kind of changes with the roster.
And Chernak was in. And he was with McDonough, so no ill residual effects from that fight with Tom Wilson.
So you're looking Chernak, McDonough probably rising up to that first pair.
Yeah, they were the first pair, Coburn, Sergachev, second pair. So, first two pairs pretty solid. Those are what you've seen all year. That third pair, you wonder what you're going to be able to get from those guys. Hopefully they can give you some good minutes because those other guys are, they've been playing some pretty heavy minutes here these last few games.
Without a doubt, and I think it could be a blessing in disguise when it comes to Hetty and get him off the ice. And
as long as he's ready for the postseason, there's no reason for any of these guys really to be playing these 4 games, but someone's got to play them. So, and there's still a couple records out there to go for the Lightning. The NHL record for wins, the road record for wins too, is still up there to be tied. So not a lot to play for, maybe a little bit of history, but when it really comes down to what your ultimate goal is, the Stanley Cup doesn't matter in that sense. You just want to see these guys healthy going into the postseason.
Without a doubt, that's the most important thing, is making sure that this week you kind of get everything in order heading, because it looks like, we don't know this for sure, but it looks like the first playoff game could be next Wednesday from what I'm hearing. Are you hearing similar to that?
Yeah, I've heard similar things. It looks like probably Wednesday for that first game.
And that's the 10th. So mark that off on your calendar. It's going to be an interesting next couple of days, I mean, to try to kind of get through to that point of the schedule without any other injury concerns. Paul Hilbrandt checking in from Jacksonville. What's going on to you? And, of course, our buddy Fabio always watching from overseas. So, as always, we want to hear from you on Bolts Breakdown. Where you're watching from, put it there on the screen. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, give us a shout and let us know. Let's look back to that game Saturday night against the Capitals, Bernsey, and it was a kind of a rough start. I mean, the Lightning fall behind 4-0, but even though they were behind 4-0, they scratched and clawed and got right back in the game, and it was 4-2. And I felt like Alex Killorn had a shot right in the slot there, and he kind of shot it right into Braden Holtby. If he doesn't do that, you're looking at a 4-3 game. They're right back into it. So it's kind of astonishing to look at this team and to see in the beginning of the game where they just came out flat. And they
expected though.
Yeah, and
coming off that break.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know. I don't make too much of it. I don't think any Lightning fan out there should as well. I mean, the Capitals seemed like they had their legs a lot better than the Lightning did. I just look at it as something that's just I don't think it's kind of a microcosm of how they're going to play going forward or a cause for concern. I think it was kind of the exception to the rule there. I wouldn't make too much of it. Would you?
I kind of looked at the way Washington approached that game, similar to how the Lightning approached their final regular season game against Boston last year.
I agree.
Remember, Boston pretty much had the Lightning's number for the first 3 of those games. I think Cooper even said something after maybe the second time that Boston manhandled them, that it was like men against boys when the Lightning were playing Boston. So I think it was important for the Lightning psyche going into that final regular season game, even though it really didn't mean much in the overall scheme of things. I think it meant a lot to the Lightning psyche to be able to beat the Bruins and just prove to themselves that they could win. I felt like Washington had a similar attitude going into Saturday night's game. They'd been beaten by the Lightning twice. The Lightning have been the clear favorite in the NHL now for a while. They're miles above everybody else in the standings. So I think that was it was imperative for them to just come in and prove to themselves that they could still beat the Tampa Bay Lightning. And then I think on the flip side, you saw a Lightning team that was coming off of a 4-day layoff. You know, they only had a couple practices, which I think was good. It was good to get them off the ice. It was good to try to get some of these guys healthy and get ready for the postseason. But you're expecting a team to be a little sloppy, a little bit sluggish coming off that break, especially in the first period of an extended layoff. I think if you're playing a team like an Ottawa or a Detroit or someone that's at the bottom of the standings that doesn't have their confidence like a Washington does, you maybe survive that first period and you don't get hurt. But you're going to get hurt against a team like the Washington Capitals. They're going to punish you if you're a little bit sluggish. And I thought as that game went on, the Lightning got their legs a little bit better. Like you said, they started that comeback. And once they start that comeback, I think everybody in the entire arena feels like this Lightning team is never out of a game. Even down 4-0 to a exceptional Washington Capitals team, they still have a chance to come back and win this game. Tyler Johnson scores that breakaway goal. There's still plenty of time left in the third period. Like you said, Killorn had that one chance. There were opportunities there for the Lightning to at least get a point out of this game. So a good sign there. But you lose Hedman early in that game. The defense core is already taxed because of the losses of Strawman and Girardi. Then you lose Cernak for the rest of the game in the third period in a spirited bout with Tom Wilson. I really thought Cernak handled himself well in that fight. He got a pretty good couple of punches in, and then Wilson just caught him with that straight right at the end and dropped him. And that's all it takes from a guy like that.
Sometimes you're going to be the hammer, sometimes you're going to be the nail. It's the way it goes.
I thought Cernak did well and showed Wilson like, hey, I'm pretty dangerous too. I can throw a couple right hands myself.
How about Anthony Cirelli and Brooks Orpik going at it?
Yeah, and that was one where Cirelli, I don't know, something got under his skin. Yeah. He went after a couple guys. Like he really kind of launched himself into the boards. Into a pile at first, and then went to Orpik and kind of did the same thing, and you could just tell like he wanted to go after somebody, and Orpik took exception to it, and they dropped the gloves, and they had to go at it. And you don't expect that from a guy. When you look at Anthony Cirelli in the locker room, and you see just kind of how wiry he is, and just such a young kid and baby face and quiet, like you said, and to see that fire, that's good to see. I really think he's going to be a key for this team in the postseason. I think maybe more than anybody, that third line center, Anthony Cirelli, if he can continue the progress he's made here in the last month or two, I think he's the key for the Lightning winning the Stanley Cup.
I'm with you, man. I think that was a huge kind of statement for the Lightning with you have Cernak and Cirelli, two guys. And I know Cirelli was on the team last year down the stretch, but now having a full year under his belt, he feels, part of the team, and he feels he has his own sense of leadership and a place on the squad where he's not afraid to go in there. Maybe before he didn't know if he was overstepping boundaries.
Yeah.
I think he knows where it is now, and a guy like Eric Chernak is huge for this club and for those people that I had people tweeting me over the weekend. This is why they needed Wayne Simmons. Like,
yeah, I saw that.
What was he going to do? What was that? Was not. He's not going to make any difference in that game Saturday night because you know what? He's probably going to slow that offense down. Maybe they don't score any goals because he's slowing the offense down. So no, I think the toughness that has been brought by guys like Paquette and Callahan and with Chernak and Cirelli and Matthew Joseph, to me, I think that is the most important thing. Let's answer because we just saw that it got shared with the Lightning guy. So again, make sure you're following Bryan and I on Twitter, J Recher, B Burns NHL. Share this on your Facebook right now. Put shared, and if you have any questions, we'll let you know. Jay Johnston in Polk County checking in. Why was Pasquale real crow? We'll answer that in a second. Shout out to Ed Stillerman from Gainesville, Georgia. That's where the great AJ Styles is from as well. Dougie Sinclair coming down for the first round of the playoffs. Hi to Yoko and Joe. We know you guys are always watching. Look at Chris. Aloha from Hawaii. You ever been to Hawaii?
No,
You gotta go, man.
Talking about maybe going there this summer, but I think we're going to have some other plans.
Yeah, I think so. Philip Lysenring, I like that. Winter Haven, Florida. What's the word on Hedman? Ryan Figueroa, Tony Bag of Donuts, and Yvonne Edwards. How's Victor Hedman? So we mentioned it earlier on in the show. Let's talk about it again real quick before we get into tonight's game against the Ottawa Senators. And Victor Hedman left with an upper body injury. He is day-to-day. And so we're going to see Cameron Gauntz and Jan Ruta. We heard that from Kaylee Chelios on Twitter as well. So it'll be cool to see him get some action with the Bolts. I mean, he's been up and down a couple times. He skated with the team.
Great season for Syracuse.
Yeah,
this year.
exactly.
It's really,
People are asking about like Cal Foote, and I go, no, Cam Gauntz. And they're like, well, what about Cal Foote? I'm like, well, Cam Gauntz has been the best defenseman, arguably, for Syracuse.
A little bit like the Matt Taramina situation a couple years ago, where Taramina was having an unbelievable year, but just doesn't, he didn't really have that. Didn't have like that NHL body or that NHL pedigree, and wasn't really considered, one of the top prospects for the Lightning. But just an unbelievable year at the AHL level for Taramina, and again for Cameron Gauntz, he's amongst the leaders amongst AHL defensemen for points and assists, and he's been a rock back there for the Syracuse Crunch. So good for him. Looks like he'll probably be making his Lightning debut tonight. And then the question about Pasquale, why was he recalled? Looks like Louis Domingue, lower body injury, day to day. Friday when they came back from practice, he didn't practice that day. He was having a treatment day. So you kind of ears perk up at that point, like, did something happen?
Well, you don't, when you hear it's a treatment day, guys get that throughout the year.
Right, so you think body maintenance, but coming off a break like that, when they've had a couple days for body maintenance, then you wonder, maybe did he tweak something in the previous game? So it looks like
Louis Domingue, he's probably riding a go-kart somewhere and
hope not.
Stubbed the toe or something. No, we're just kidding.
But it looks like Vasilevsky tonight in net, and then Pasquale making a second Lightning game and second NHL game tomorrow in Montreal.
Let's get Eddie a win. That would be awesome. So shout out to Bryan from Galloway, Ohio, Yvonne from Harbor Island. I was over there this morning. Let's see what else. What's up? Reach around. What's up, buddy? Bubba Sawyer. And who do you think we play in the first round of the playoffs? Who do you think, Burnsy?
It's Carolina, Columbus, and Montreal right now, and they all kind of keep jockeying back and forth with each result. So it's kind of hard to say. They're jumbled up right now. I hope it's Montreal. I'd love to go to Montreal for the first round rather than
I know you would like that.
Carolina or Columbus. So.
And for people asking about the hat, it's a black and white hat, TB, because it's Tampa Bay. This covers all the team. It's not a blue hat. It's not a Rays hat. To me, I wear this when I support all the Tampa Bay teams. So, I was thinking about that yesterday because last year I wore my Lightning hat all the time. So this is TB. It's my black and white. I support all the teams here. So this kind of encompasses everything. So I wear this.
I just support the Lightning.
There you go. See, but that's the way it goes. But we love all our teams.
I support the other teams.
There you go. My man right here. Burnsy, when are you starting the playoff beard?
I was asked. Oh yeah, my wife loves it. I like it too. Once it grows out, the first couple days are itchy and can be annoying, but once it grows out, I kind of like it. I don't know. I was trying to remember. Do you do it after the final regular season game, or do you start it like the first day of the playoffs?
Ooh.
I can't remember the exact.
Babyface Bryan Burns.
Whenever I find out that exact answer, then probably start it on Sunday. But if we have to wait till Tuesday, Wednesday, then we'll do that.
I'm already started, so I think I might get a little more. I think I might get it trimmed up here. Probably.
Yeah, you got to trim it up before the start because you got to let that thing go ragged until at least the next round.
Man, I'm not looking forward to that. I'm going to look like Duck Dynasty all over the place again. Brian Burns, beat writer for TampaBayLightning.com. B Burns NHL on Twitter. Jay Recher, at Recher on Twitter. Let's look forward to tonight's game, Bernsey. Playing the Ottawa Senators and a team that is destined for I'd say destined for a top pick in the draft, but that draft pick is going to Colorado. So sorry about your luck. Ottawa, I mean, a team that's playing really with nothing to lose. You traded away all their good players, but they're still fighting. They're still playing hard. Anything that the Lightning really need to worry about? What are your 3 keys to victory for the Bolts tonight?
Number one for me is obvious. Stay healthy.
Oh, yeah.
And we've seen it. And, it's just like, they've been so lucky this year with injuries. Even when they had injuries to Hedman, to Palat, to Strawman at the beginning of the year, they were able to mask them. To Vasilevsky, who's out for he's out for a month of the season, and he's still leading the NHL for wins.
That's nuts, man.
They've been able to mask some of these injuries that they've had, mainly because it's just been one. It was only Victor Hedman, so someone could come up. That's when we saw Eric Chernak. They've been able to mask these, bring guys up. Louis Domingue playing spectacularly. But now they're all starting to kind of come together with Girardi's indefinite thing and Strawman, who hopefully will get back here fairly soon. We're hoping for tomorrow at Montreal.
Do you think he needs to skate before the playoffs?
I would think so. I would think he needs to get a couple games under his belt just to get back up to speed. And if anybody doesn't, it's a veteran guy like that who's been in the league for a while. But I think more than anything, the cardio, the conditioning, you need to get into. You can do all the off the ice stuff to get ready and prepare for that, but you don't really feel it until you're actually out there on the ice. So I think 1 or 2 games for him would be good.
I'm with you.
And hopefully, Hedman can get a couple of those games too. Even though you don't necessarily need to play him, and some thought might be, well, let's just, if he's a little dinged up now, let's just get him off the ice for this week and save him for the playoffs, which I would tend to agree with. But it might be good to get him a game just to make sure that conditioning is there once the playoffs go. But yeah, just stay healthy, man. 4 games left. Let's not have any more injuries. Let's just keep it to what it is right now. Stop the bleeding. Let some of these call-ups do their thing and get guys healthy again. Number 2 for me, key, and this is not just tonight, but going forward the rest of the regular season, especially once the postseason starts, stay out of the penalty box. This Lightning team has really been taking a lot of penalties here of late, and I haven't looked it up, but I got to think they're among the bottom of the league as far as most amount of penalty minutes per game, and it's really been kind of exaggerated here of late. You saw in the Washington game, and I know the Lightning penalty kill has been really good this year, but you can't keep putting a power play like Washington's with Ovechkin.
Fate, right?
Yeah, there's so many dangerous people on that power play that you're going to get scored on. So that's a big one for me. The Lightning need to really be a little bit more disciplined and stay out of the penalty box. And number 3 for me, and this is another thing that's kind of been slipping for the Lightning of late, and I think the injuries on the blue line could be a big concern here, or could be exacerbating the situation. But they've been giving up a lot of goals of late, and that was something that they'd really, since the beginning of the calendar year, since 2019 started, they'd really done a good job and were top 3 or 4 in the league for goals against, somewhere around 2.2 per game. And it seems like here of late they've been getting up 4 or 5 with regularity. So really need to pay attention to that defensive zone tonight and get that structure back. And if it's a 1-0 game or it's a 2-1 game, that's fine. These games, the results ultimately don't matter. It's about getting your game into playoff form. And I think that starts defensively for the Lightning. I really want to see them pay attention to that end of the arena.
Do you think that when it comes playoff time, the referees obviously don't call as many penalties? Do you think part of that will help them as well? I mean, they're taking a lot of stick penalties too, so they're just not moving their feet. And I think with them having that little more intensity and a little more energy from it being playoff time, added with the referees not calling as many penalties, do you think that could help them as far as not taking as many per game?
Yeah, absolutely. And getting some of these guys back, too, that are big penalty killers. I mean, you look at what the penalty kill has been able to do, and they've done it without Strawman, who's like second on the team for shorthanded time on ice. They've been doing it without Girardi, who's a big shot blocker on that penalty kill. So the penalty kill has been able to kind of tread water here with some of their big key members missing. Now they're going to have to do without Victor Hedman, who's another penalty kill guy. But combined with the whistles kind of being swallowed in the playoffs, I think the Lightning will be a little bit more disciplined in the playoffs, and plus they'll have that energy and that focus where maybe you're not taking a stick penalty like you say because you're not moving the legs, you're engaged in the game, and you're not doing maybe those little things that you do when you're a bit fatigued. Combine that with the penalty killers that they have on the bench coming back, hopefully, and that should all kind of take care of itself. But it's just been a little concerning of late, the number of penalties these guys have been taking, last 5, 6, 7 games.
Without a doubt. My one guy to watch for the Senators tonight, Thomas Chabot. he really is an unbelievable young defenseman. He came across in that deal for Erik Karlsson from San Jose. I really like that kid. I think he can skate. He just does a little bit of everything. A really talented player. So he's a guy that really jumpstarts their offense from back there on the blue line. So keep an eye on him jumping into the play tonight. But not too worried about tonight's game. I think a lot of these young guys that are going to get the opportunity, you have a guy like Ryan Callahan seeing some regular ice time now with some of the injuries that they've had to deal with, like his energy.
Looks like he's not going to play tonight.
But he's out tonight?
Yeah,
Okay.
it looks like Joseph is back in.
All right, so Matt Joseph in. And
just from the line rushes that Kaylee tweeted
that's
out.
what we've seen, though. We've seen whether it's either one of those guys, whoever jumps back into the game after being out for some time, they really do have they play like, hey, their hair's on fire. They want to prove that they deserve to be in that lineup. So I keep an eye on Matthew Joseph tonight to have a big impact. And then on defense, I want to see Cam Gaunce and Jan Ruta and see how they do. And Andrei Vasilevsky, I'm sure, wants to bounce back from giving up all those goals on Saturday night against Washington. I know people were asking about who won the fight. I don't know. I think Wilson probably won the fight, but it's one of those things where you can win the battle but not win the war kind of thing. Like, let Wilson, if he wants to hang his hat on winning a fight in a regular season game that really didn't mean anything for the Lightning, that's fine. But to me, the real winner in that fight were the Tampa Bay Lightning just getting into those scraps and showing that they're not going to back down with Cirelli and Chernak, two of their younger guys, taking on two of the veteran guys from Washington in Orpik and Wilson. So to me, they showed that they can come back, offensively, and I don't think you're not going to see the Lightning go down 4-0 very many games, but they also showed that they're not going to back down physically as well. I thought those were like kind of those minor victories, even though they didn't come out on top in the game.
Yeah, I think that's a good message to send. I wish Cernak wouldn't have got involved in that fight. I wish he would have just walked away from that one because you'd already lost Hedman. You're down to really 5 defensemen in that game. Now he's out for the rest of the game. You're down to 4 defensemen with, I think there were maybe like 8-9 minutes still remaining in that game. I know that thing had been brewing for quite a while, and a lot of us...
better to do it that game, though, right, than in the playoffs. You don't want to miss him in the playoff game.
Yeah.
For 5 minutes there. So if you're going to, make your mark, you do it then. Or maybe in another game down the road where, one of the two teams is out in front by a lot, and you go, hey, we're going to...
That's true.
Round 2,
it's a game that's, ultimately is kind of meaningless, but...
You hate to say that, but it is. I mean, it's not really affecting the playoff seeding for the Lightning at all. So what are you going to do? I think sometimes you got to win those battles in games where the outcome isn't really the most important thing of the game.
No, I see what you're saying. I like that. But again, I don't know.
I'm with you, though. It's not smart to take them out of the game because I think the Lightning lose more with Chernak out of the lineup than the Capitals do with Chernak.
And I think Tom Wilson knows that Chernak's not really afraid of him. I don't think he's... Chernak backs away from that fight. I don't think Wilson's like, oh, I've got this guy. Like I'm in his head now. Like I don't know that Wilson's thinking like that. And I think that the possibility if the Lightning were to face them, it would probably be in an Eastern Conference final again. I think Tom Wilson knows that Chernak's not going to back down from that kind of physical play and is going to be there the entire series. So I don't know. There's good points to it. It's a good debate. There's good points to it on both sides. For me, I just think after hearing you say it is kind of a meaningless game, why not send that message now? I'm kind of leaning more towards your side now. Go ahead and fight them.
Get out of the way now. Don't be doing that in the playoffs. Lose another defenseman. Imagine if something like that happens tonight, and then he gets into a fight, and then Cameron Gaunce and Jan Ruta are 2 of your 5 defensemen left.
Or imagine Chernak's out, week to week because of that fight.
Exactly. You never know. Guys could hurt themselves for sure. So, again, Hedman upper body injury day to day. He's out. Cameron Gaunce and Jan Ruta in. Louis Domingue lower body injury. That's why Eddie Pasquale was called up. So we'll keep you...
is that true? Wilson broke his finger? I didn't see that.
We'll take a look on it.
We'll have to look.
Yeah, we'll look into that and definitely let you know more about that tomorrow. So, Lightning right back in action tomorrow night in Montreal against the Canadiens. So make sure you follow Bryan on Twitter at @BBurnsNHL. Follow the team at TB Lightning. Go to TampaBayLightning.com for the best news and notes. You can follow me at Recher. Follow the station at 95.3 WDAE. Go to 95.3WDAE.com for the best Bolts coverage. The game will be on Fox Sports Sun tonight. And then also, as always, up the dial on our sister station, News Radio, WFLA. Let's take a 23 hour and 32-minute break, and we'll do this again tomorrow.
Yeah, sounds good.
That's Bryan. I'm Jay. We'll see you next time right here on Bolts Breakdown.